Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Eastgate 2025 annual meeting. I am Kathy Zook, the Eastgate Appalachian Regional Commission Program Manager, and unfortunately, Justin is under the weather today. He's not going to be able to join you. So it is my privilege to be your MC for the day as we guide through this celebration. This is a great group. I know we are at maximum capacity, and I want to thank you for taking the time to join us because we know you all have very busy schedules. At Eastgate, we would like to take this time to reflect on the accomplishments we have done with our partners over the past year. And we would also like to take this time to look forward to the work that we have to do ahead. Eastgate is a regional planning agency, so we work collaboratively with our local elected officials, our communities, to guide decisions regarding infrastructure, community, and economic development. But before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors, because without their support, we would not be able to gather and share ideas in this beautiful room. So thank you to our sponsors. Please, let's give them a round of applause. We at Eastgate are dedicated to making our communities stronger. So with that, we're making efforts to improve our transportation network, making sure that we have clean water for our next generation, and also to make improvements in our most vital resource, our people, which is you. I just recently had an opportunity to go this week to the Appalachian State of the Region Conference, and their focus was exactly what we're focusing on today, and that is the need for accessible, affordable housing. At the Appalachian Regional State of the Region Conference, we focused on accessible housing and vital needs, but housing is not just an Appalachian need, and it is not just an issue in our community. It's a national need. So, you know, Jim, we always have to have a plan, and Eastgate, we have spent the last year developing our housing study. That study is now complete and on our website, so we hope you take a chance to look at that. Affordable, accessible housing is vital for our communities to grow, succeed, and connect. Affordable housing is something that we take very seriously, and actually at Eastgate we didn't realize the need until we started diving in. So today we hope to bring attention to the needs of affordable housing within our region. I'd also like to take a moment in our distinguished audience to thank some of the people and the groups that help Eastgate accomplish our daily task and guide us as an agency. I'd like to take a moment to thank the members of the Eastgate General Policy Board and our committees such as the TAC, our Technical Advisory Committee, and our Citizens Advisory Board. It takes a lot of time and effort for those committees to come together, and we do appreciate their efforts. Okay. Of course, I would get a little bit lost. Justin never seems to. Today, we are going to hear from a distinguished speaker who is a national voice for housing. Mr. Chris Allen is here, and he'll be giving a presentation to tell us some of the focuses and improvements we can make there. We are also going to hear from our executive director, Mr. Jim Kinnick. Jim is going to tell us about accomplishments that we made and directions we're going regarding infrastructure, downtown revitalization, community, and economic development. So it is my pleasure to introduce our executive director, Mr. Jim Kinnick. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. And can we give a round of applause for Kathy? She found out yesterday at 2 o'clock she was going to be the MC to fill in, so we appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Excited with the responses to our annual meeting. Great crowd here today. This is an incredible room of community leaders and business leaders. We actually, and I think Kathy made reference to, we sold out the event, had to close registration down, which is a good thing. Maybe we'll squeeze more tables in for next year, but great to see the people I know here. And what I'm really more excited about is some of the new faces in the crowd that are going to just have a better understanding of what's going on in the region. So to everyone, welcome. I must say, it feels like the energy in the room epitomizes the atmosphere in the entire Mahoning Valley. Last week I attended Lake to Rivers annual meeting, and last month we had the Youngstown Warren Regional Chambers annual meeting. Both spoke of major economic accomplishments, which I have to recognize again. $37 million commitment to add a manufacturing innovation hub for aerospace and defense. Congrats again to Team YBI and Team America Makes. Kimberly Clark announcing an $800 million investment to build manufacturing plants that will provide over 500 jobs, good paying jobs. Congrats to the Port Authority, EGA, Lake to River for their work on that. I have to tell you, there's more to come too. And you know, when we talk and we meet and talk internally, there's some bigger, I really look at this as the tip of the iceberg. There's some bigger things coming here in the very near future. And I'm excited, and I just can't talk about them too much right now. So again, I'd like to tell you everybody, this is the tip of the iceberg of some of the good investments coming to our area. And I must say, none of these projects happened by accident. They're a product of what I will now call Team Mahoning Valley. Community and business leaders working together with a unified vision to change the economic narrative of our own valley. Today is really a celebration of our successes that we have achieved together, and more importantly, a roadmap to look forward to build upon the initiatives and grow our economic vitality.
The Mahoning Valley community is more than just neighbors. It's home to a rich history, dedicated people, beautiful natural features, and a passion for revitalization. But how can we organize these assets into tangible change? That's where Eastgate Regional Council of Governments comes in, serving as the community's unifying force. Eastgate brings together expertise, resources, and ideas from across the region to address standard of living issues. The organization serves as an intermediate force between larger government entities and our residents to benefit and advance our communities. Our mission is to harness the power of a collective voice and elevate our quality of life. Leveraging the expertise of a voluntary association of local governments, we work to qualify the region for federal and state funding while providing robust programs to implement projects that benefit transportation, water and air quality, land use planning, and local infrastructure. Projects such as the Mahoning River Restoration, where the continuous collaboration with the riverside communities has led to the successful removal of several dams, have worked to foster an environment that promotes the well-being and prosperity of all. And Kinsman Township's sidewalk improvements, where the community came together to help fund 4 phases of pedestrian amenities, have helped to make the area more livable, walkable, and inviting for people to enjoy all the community has to offer. But our ultimate strength lies in you, our residents, business owners, and organizations who come together to acknowledge our strengths and weaknesses and help us plan for a brighter future. Your participation is our catalyst for change. Join us at eastgatecog.org to learn what we're doing and to get involved. Together, we're not just improving life in the region, we're reimagining what community can be.
Thank you. I must admit, I love the video because I believe it just captured the group we have at Eastgate out in the communities and having meetings and getting out, impromptu meetings, informal meetings, and a couple of them, there was a meeting going on in the hallway and there was one going on in the background inside one of our conference rooms. So outstanding. And I would like to recognize the entire Eastgate staff. It certainly makes my job easier when you're surrounded by energetic, talented groups that share the passion to help our communities grow. This group, and I have to tell you, this group manages and delivers programs, and I have to list them. The OPWC, ARC, broadband, EDA, transportation planning, transit, water quality, corridor planning, and safety. Many of these initiatives I will be discussing today are in addition to those normal annual programs that we put out. So it's truly a team effort, and I just ask the entire Eastgate staff to stand and be recognized. Thank you. My next, I'd like to offer, Kathy mentioned it, I think it needs mentioned again, my sincere appreciation to the support we get from our General Policy Board, our Finance Executive Committee, our Technical Advisory Committee, and our Citizens Advisory Board. Many of the members of those committees are in attendance today, and I appreciate that involvement. Their guidance, their direction are invaluable to the success of our region. They help get our word out. They offer advice what they're seeing, and it really just helps us grow as one. Lastly, again, another big thanks to our sponsors today. We appreciate their support. We certainly couldn't put anything on like this without the support of our sponsors, so thank you. Now, I want to, I know I get long-winded, so I'm going to try just to be, cut it back a little bit, but I have to talk about a handful of things. And I want to spend a little bit of time looking back on the past year. And everybody's probably heard me make the reference to a small rearview mirror versus a large windshield looking forward. And I tell everybody, it started with my daughter earlier in her career, quit looking back, start looking ahead, because you can't change what's already in the past. But it's very important to recognize some of the major accomplishments that we went through and had in the past year. I'm going to start with broadband. Beginning in calendar year 2024 and running through calendar year 2025, Eastgate has secured commitments from each Board of County Commissioners, Ashtabula, Trumbull, and Mahoning, to continue to support our robust broadband program. Following the recommendations that were identified in the 3-county broadband feasibility study, our attention focused on first mile. And when they talk first mile, it's considered, I've heard people say last mile, but it's the connection to the houses that don't have connection or internet. In Mahoning County, Eastgate utilized $1.5 million in funding from the county commissioners to develop and implement a broadband project in 5 of the county's rural townships that had no service: Goshen, Jackson, Milton, Smith, and Springfield. And we're wrapping that up as we speak. In Trumbull County, Eastgate utilized $1.5 million in funding from their county commissioners to implement a broadband project in 7 rural counties that didn't have service. Those are Mesopotamia, Bloomfield, Greene, Gustavus, Kinsman, Farmington, and Bristol. And lastly, Ashtabula County, through the perseverance of the county commissioners, were able to secure $2.5 million in ARC Power funding to implement a wireless pilot project in rural areas of their county. I'm proud to say that because of these projects, we've responded to areas of need and have delivered the internet to over 96% of the 3 counties in the Eastgate region. So hats off to the contributions and the teamwork that we're doing. Mahoning River dams. I didn't think I'd still be standing here in 2025 talking about them. The project, I'm used to getting projects and get through them quicker. All kind of rules, regulations, and what have you, but we continue to move upstream and making great progress. The Lowville, Struthers, and Summit Street Dam in Warren have been removed. The Main Street Dam in Warren and the Leavittsburg Dam will be removed this year. The 3 dams in Youngstown are funded and will be removed in 2026. And we've also secured $10 million in funding committed from the Ohio EPA to remove the Girard Dam by the end of 26. So I believe now we have a plan, and I'll summarize. 3 dams have been removed, 2 more this year, and 4 dams remaining along the river that are funded, and most importantly, are funded and will be removed next year. I can't emphasize enough the importance of reclaiming the river by removing the dams, dredging the toxic material, and returning the water to a free-flowing, clean state. This will allow us the communities along the river to create recreational attractions. And all of us in this room have some toe in the water of economic development. Quality of life is vital to economic development. So now that's a great segue to our Appalachian Community Grant Program, our third initiative that I'm going to dive into from last year. Last year, we were fortunate enough to announce a $20 million commitment from the DeWine administration in our region that for projects that focus on downtown revitalizations and riverfront developed through the ACGP program. These projects are in communities that abut the river, a park, and/or trails. This allows us to continue to build on the success of the dam removal to take advantage of the opportunities to grow our communities. Hats off to Mayor Duciani and Lowellville by leading by example. It is a special what's being created on the banks of the river in that village. If you haven't had a chance to get out there, please. That's the vision, and we're all going to follow it. Mayor Miller, Mayor Brown, Mayor Zuppo, Mayor Minkiewicz, Mayor Franklin, all share a similar vision and look for the investment along the river to grow. So of the 10 projects of $20 million that we received, the 10 projects have to be completed by the end of 2026. That's when the money disappears. It's ARPA monies that are being utilized here. And so it's very important that we be aggressive developing these. 3 projects beginning construction by the end of this month, Lowellville River Park, downtown and river parks in Niles, and the Western Reserve Greenway Trail renovations in Trumbull County Metro Parks. 3 projects be in construction by the end of this summer. City of Struthers, their community river launch, Geneva downtown streetscape, and City of Ashtabula streetscape. 4 projects go out to bid this fall. City of Youngstown with their Spring Common Park, City of Warren with the Peninsula Bridge, which we climbed a mountain about a month ago with Columbus, and their water trail. Conneaut Township Park with their Twin Bridges River launch, and Village of Geneva on the lake shoreline restoration. I got to tell you, when we told everybody in Columbus, ODOD, and the Governor's Office of Appalachia, that we wanted to keep these projects internal so that we can control the delivery and so that we can ensure that they'd be completed by the end of next year. It's October. I thought we had smirks and didn't think we can get it, and I think we get special attention to make sure we're getting there. But I can tell you that that schedule we share, we'll deliver those projects and we'll be done with the construction by time. And a really special thanks to the entire staff that accepted the challenge to manage these jobs internally and develop them and get them through construction before the deadline of October of 2026. I think it's thank you. It's been no easy task. That delivery is a little bit different than what I think I'm accustomed to because there's a different set of rules, but we've had strong relationships with some of our partners and some of the expertise that we rely on to make this happen. I'd like to mention that we have collectively, now keep in mind, we were disappointed. There was $450 million thrown out. We got $20 million, so I expressed my disappointment last year and got told I got to quit talking about it. And I have, because we're going to deliver our projects, but so there's a substantial investment to the south of the communities, and maybe the need is greater. Sure. But what we have done is we identified 3 to 5 projects that were not funded, and we're advancing them using our own resources, put them in development, and we're going to put them on a shelf. We're really going to create what I'll call as a reservoir of projects that are ready to go to construction that can be built. Just in case another community south of us is not able to deliver their projects, will be. I got to tell you, my friends from ODOT are here. This is an old District 4 trick, and I see Tony Ranker out there too. This is his trick, or I should say strategy. You stand ready with projects to sell, and we are ready to take their money when they can't spend it. So we will be ready, I can assure you that. The completion of these projects paired with the dam removals and other investments certainly enhance the quality of life in our urban cores, which is a box that must be checked to spur economic development. You hear me talk all the time. You've got to start with the urban cores and grow out. We really feel the investments the cities are making with this, coupled with other things they're doing in their downtowns. And now we have a couple of projects in corridor planning to look and grow our cities outward. But it has to start in the downtown urban cores. I'd like to move on to transportation. I'd like to just highlight 3 projects. I think it's important to highlight these 3 projects. Trumbull 4682, the DDI, it's a $20 million project that will greatly improve the traffic flow in one of the busiest areas in the region. The actual interchange is scheduled to be completed later this year, and then the improvements to State Route 46 and Old 82 or Market Street intersection will begin this spring. A great investment, great project. Really, again, we've talked about this for a couple years, but can't wait till they open it up and see the looks on people's faces as they drive through a DDI, diverging diamond, because it shifts you to the other side of the road and brings you back. And trust me, it works. We've had a lot of people that didn't like roundabouts until we built roundabouts. So we're excited about the DDI being, I think, only the second one in the state of Ohio. Second project, I reference it because it's another very busy area, the Mahoning 224, $19 million project will focus on improving the shopping corridor, Mahoning in Boardman, with access management and more turn lanes. It feels like we're always out there trying to fix that and getting it better. So very congested area that needs relief, and that project will be sold in early 2026. The last one I don't think we've mentioned in the past because it's coming up now quickly is Mahoning 680. Anybody that drove 680 understands it's rough. It's rough, and there's been a lot of patches, a lot of slot paving, a lot of attention trying to keep it together. Well, we have now a $200 million commitment, 3-phase projects that will completely rebuild 680. So they're ripping the pavement up and putting new down. From the Ohio Turnpike through the South Avenue interchange, this project will be sold. Phase 1 and 3 will start next spring, and the middle section will be sold in 2028. But these infrastructure improvements are necessary when we continue to try to attract businesses, when we continue to attract people back here. I intentionally call these projects out because they're major thoroughfares in need of upgrade, represent $240 million in funding commitments from the state of Ohio. And thank you to our partners at ODOT for recognizing the need and delivering. There's investment. I've heard when I first got over here that nobody helps us in this area. Well, you got to help yourself. This area has called out some of these projects, and we've gotten relief coming. And we appreciate the commitment, certainly, from the Department of Transportation. And now I want to take a look, fast forward to where we're going, and just going to highlight 2 of our major initiatives. First, a Lake to River pipeline. I'm not sure many people know exactly what we're trying to do there, and I'm not sure I do either. I've got to be honest with you here. But recognize the abundance of untapped natural gases, oil, and other byproducts from across eastern Ohio. Eastgate, working closely with the Lake to River team, will be conducting a comprehensive feasibility study to construct a pipeline along State Route 11 from the Ohio River to Lake Erie. The initial phase of the study will be an economic assessment with 3 focus areas. Best and most practical mechanisms to deliver these products, quantify the economic impact of providing pipeline access to potential mega sites along the State Route 11 corridor, and establish a public-private partnership framework to maximize the investment and really see return on that investment to help local communities along that corridor. We see this as a great opportunity to drive economic activity, job creation, capital investment in a corridor that frankly looks abandoned. I can't understand it. I think I do a little bit now, but you see interchanges with nothing. You see State Route 11 with very little traffic. I think the opportunity, certainly working with our Lake to River team, is to put emphasis on this corridor. I know they have, and we're there to help them. So, outstanding project, more to come. We have money coming from the state budget to investigate it. We put an RFP out soon, and we hope to have some results within a year to see if it's feasible to chase. But if it is, we'll chase. Secondly, one of the major initiatives I really want to take a little deeper dive into is housing. Vital to the region's economic growth is the need for housing. As was once technically stated to me by a colleague, houses are where jobs go at night. With an aggressive effort to bring companies and industry to the area, it's imperative that we have a robust housing strategy developed and implemented. Answering the need, Eastgate hired a consultant a year ago to perform a housing assessment strategy for both Mahoning and Trumbull counties. The results of the study were rolled out this past January, with many of the action items, I could tell you, underway. I do want to go over a couple of the action items to kind of give everybody just sort of like a taste of what's going on. Working off the strategy playbook, I'm going to remind everyone this is really just, it's a work in progress. It will evolve. Eastgate has assumed the role of kind of the oversight and facilitating with the creation of the Housing Steering Committee. And the steering committee is going to be focused over the 6 committees that we have going. Again, I think I call your attention to the screen. It might make more sense. I'm going to give a brief explanation of the subcommittees as we move on. First, and importantly, is supporting existing residents and vulnerable populations. Eastgate working with local governments to assist residents that may need help negotiating a fair rent. And we kind of heard some horror stories on that. So we're developing a team to help negotiate fair rents for people that don't have that opportunity. We also like to have and connect with approved contractors and or programs for needed house repairs in some of our neighborhoods. That's probably, out of everything, that's probably going to be one of our challenging ones. But when I take a look at the housing spectrum, and if you say 1 to 10, I want to show you that all 6 take a look at the 1 to 10 range of housing. Enhance existing housing stock. Eastgate working with YNDC and Trumbull Neighborhood Partners to amplify the great success that these organizations have exhibited in revitalizing neighborhoods. Again, compliments and congrats to those organizations. We want to try to provide a larger platform to attract more attention and obviously resources and help them take their initiatives farther into different areas of our region. Obviously, the focus will be on additional funding for home repairs and really infill opportunities in neighborhoods. And I'm going to touch on that in a second. The third box or subcommittee that we have going is zoning and permitting. Krista Benison, our newest employee at Eastgate, will lead the council to gather information on local rules and regulations that relate to housing, looking for the best practices, outdated information, and areas where communities need assistance. This is a regional approach that may require down the road some assistance from our legislators, but this is the time to make changes if we need to make changes. Columbus is very aware of the problems with housing, very aware of how difficult it is to build a house in Youngstown versus building a house in Columbus because it costs about the same, but in Columbus you could sell it for a heck of a lot more. So what are our developers doing? They're building houses in Columbus. So Krista has already scheduled a handful of meetings with local communities and has many more scheduled. I try to attend those. I'm just blown away by some of the things we hear and some of the areas where they need help. And when you look at cities and villages and townships, I feel bad. I don't believe I know they don't have the staff to do this anymore. Everybody's downsized. So I think when we get more of a collaborative effort here to take a look at some of the things that are going good and some of the things that are going bad, or like I said earlier, outdated, we might be able to make assistance. And if you weigh that on the other side of the scale with what we're hearing from developers, what are their obstacles, what are their stumbling blocks, I'd like to marry the two and get them there and try to expedite some construction in our communities. The fourth committee I'd like to address is land assembly. A joint effort with the Western Reserve Port Authority and EAG and working with the land banks. I was talking to Nick Creation this morning. I think he'd be perfect to lead this charge, Nick. And we'd be working with communities to refine focus on areas that can be redeveloped. And I want to talk quickly on that too. It's really strategic demolitions. If a city's don't just knock them down. If we have a chance to have 4 lots in a row versus a house here and a house here, let's knock the 5th one down, the 6th one down if they're scheduled for demo. Strategic demolitions and focus on areas that we think we can bring back quicker. The other is former school sites. And it's been my little soapbox since I had a presentation. by a consultant that came to our Eastgate offices and really said, you know, when I was growing up, I can't say we because I'm a lot older than most of them in the crowd, but when I was growing up, you had elementary schools in neighborhoods. Now they've centralized more campuses, but those elementary schools, some still sit there, some are knocked down, but you have city blocks that are really ripe for development. Woda Cooper's the company to come through. They've been working in 16 different states. They come in, they get it incentivized, and they build 30, 40 houses on those city blocks. They showed signs of success in other states, other communities, where that investment in a city block helped the people that lived around the school to invest in their properties or find relief that direction. So when I talk about building more houses, I don't want anybody to think, oh, you're only going to go out to the suburbs. No, there's a lot of focus on the urban cores again, and that's where these elementary schools sit. So the land assembly, and I know EAG is already working with Trumbull Neighborhoods Partnership out in Warren on a site where they're looking to build 4 houses on a smaller site. So great initiative, again, all working concurrently. The 5th one is the small developer training. And I thank you to Teresa Miller and her team at Valley Partners for diving right in and leading this effort. The focus here is to help those looking to create startup companies for home repairs. I say house flipping and smaller developments. We're finding that the need for assistance understanding the available resources, processes, and/or available capital is misunderstood or not seen at all by these folks trying to get into the industry. I had a developer said we don't want more competition. I wrote right back and said, yes, we do. The more people we get building houses, the quicker we get them up, and the opportunities to help this region will abound. The last is the subcommittee is the Housing Council. Hats off to Guy Coviello and the entire team at the Chamber. They are off and running with this initiative. They're out in front, and we're all trying to catch up on the others. This initiative focuses on incentives, tax abatements, investors, developers, advocacy. They have monthly progress meetings. Infrastructure needs to spur development have been identified, and already monetary requests to the state budget for assistance have been made. Most importantly, this group is rallying local developers and investors very interested in making an impact in our valley. I can tell you that I get a call every other week with somebody wanting to come in here and do something. We took a company from Columbus and toured downtown Youngstown, talked about a parking deck, talking about student housing with YSU. We talked about housing, multifamily housing down there also. Then they wanted to see the Smoky Hollow area. We also then highlighted downtown Warren, the Garden District, with the Peninsula Project. We have calls from Altium that they want to build 400 condos near their plants so that the 300 Koreans that they bring over, 400 Koreans that they bring over every 3 years have a place to stay in a community to grow. And then they flip them and bring another 400 over after 3 years. So they were looking for 400 condos. I've had some discussions with Mercy Health, just preliminary, but there's plenty of land behind and around St. Anthony's, right at the edge of the city, really along that Belmont Medical Corridor that is available, that we could possibly get townhouses built and create an area that'd be more attractive for doctors, nurses, technicians to come here that want to come to a city where it's, we can park our car, ride our bike to work, and have coffee right downstairs. So there's a lot of ideas going on, and really we just kind of started diving in. So it's been a few short months. Progress is great, and we hope to roll out a lot of the accomplishments in next year's meeting. I think you probably have noticed all these subcommittees overlap and are supported by many partners. I do want to offer an open invitation to anyone that has expertise in any of these areas and is motivated to help to contact us. We do need everyone's help. We can't do this alone. I'm going to tell you I'm no expert in any of this, but I love to surround myself with people that are smarter than me because they make me look smarter. So we've been meeting with some of the banks in the last couple of weeks, and we're continuing our efforts through the housing councils with investors and builders. In To recap, the jobs are coming, we just need to find them a place to sleep. Easy enough. I have to admit one more thing, and I think I said it earlier to somebody. I never thought that I'd be in my 40-year career, and I can't believe I've been 30 years at ODOT and 10 years at Eastgate. This is my 10th year at Eastgate, that I'd be talking about broadband, pipelines, housing. But I got to tell you, I tell everybody I enjoy the chase, I enjoy the challenge, and I think you see that in the staff we have at Eastgate, that we want to do good things for our community. So we're proud of our work, and we're excited about where we're going. We're excited with our partners. I'll never say, and we'd tell everybody we don't need the headlines, we just need the partners. And we have a great group and a great partnership, and this is working well. So in closing, I could not be prouder of the collaboration and the partnerships that now exist and the generational opportunities that really lie ahead. We now need to change the perspective of the Valley, and I'm going to leave you, I did this last year and I revised them. I'm going to leave you with 3 challenges for everyone in the audience today. Be a fan of the region. Stop the negative impressions. Celebrate the wins by being a cheerleader for the region. Help to tell our story. That's how we're going to keep the young people here, and that's how we're going to bring the people that have left back. There's every day somebody tells me something good's happened, but we don't hear about it, on a stage. We don't hear about it in the paper. So we've got to tell our story. Tell how good it is here. And watch my comment about all our projects is the snowball's at the top of the hill. Once it starts getting tipped over, it's going to roll, and it's going to roll hard. And I really think 2025 into 26 is going to be a phenomenal year. Second challenge I have is be a participant. Attend regional community events. This is a perfect example. Learn from one another and understand the transformation. You don't have to be an expert on any of the things I talked about. I just want you to know somebody's talking about that. Find your place and be visible at these events. Last challenge I have is to be part of Team Mahoning Valley. Give your time, your help, and apply your resources to continue to build on the momentum we have that we've all started together. I appreciate everyone's attention today, and I want to leave you with one quote. Some people want it to happen. Some wish it would happen. Others make it happen. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. That was very insightful and motivating. Take a moment to say, we are very busy at Eastgate, and we're looking forward to the future. We understand that progress is not made by individual silos. It takes individuals and communities working together, dedicating their time and their leadership to make us all successful in a region where we love to live and grow and raise our families. So thank you all for working with us so we continue to thrive. I would like to take a moment to recognize 2 leaders that exemplify leadership within our community. It was difficult to narrow it down. We have some great leaders, but 2 in particular were outstanding examples. So Eastgate has created our first ever Eastgate Community Leadership Award, and that is to recognize individuals that make a profound difference in our communities. So I'd like to get to the award presentation, and to help me with that is our own Pat Giannetti, who is the Mahoning County Engineer and also the Chair of the Eastgate General Policy Board. Join me in welcoming Mr. Pat Giannetti to the podium.
Thank you. I don't know if you noticed, Kathy mentioned I am the chair of the Finance Executive Committee and General Policy Board, and that's thanks to my good friend, Commissioner Casey Kozlowski, that I am still here. Casey knows what I'm talking about. Where are you at? There you are. Well, good morning, everybody. This is truly an honor for me to be here today, and I'm excited to be part of this special moment where we recognize and celebrate outstanding leadership in our region. At Eastgate, we work every day to make outstanding leadership in our region. We work to make our community stronger, more connected, and more resilient, and it's the efforts of individuals like those we are recognizing today that truly help bring our mission to life. This year, we are proud to present the first ever Eastgate Community Leadership Awards, which honor those whose leadership, dedication, and passion have made a lasting impact in our region. These recipients have gone above and beyond their respective roles, driving positive change, fostering collaboration, and contributing to the success of our communities. It's a true privilege to introduce our first distinguished honoree. As a fellow Wildcat, I'm especially honored to present this prestigious award to Catherine Sircone Miller, the esteemed mayor of the city of Struthers, birthplace of Pat Genetti, in recognition of her outstanding contributions and leadership. It's a privilege to recognize her remarkable achievements and dedication to our community. Mayor Miller has shown exemplary leadership in her city, spearheading projects that enhance the quality of life for those residents of Struthers. She's championed the development of the city's comprehensive plan and worked closely with ODOT to create a citywide active transportation plan. Her efforts in enhancing Struthers infrastructure, including the Struthers Dam and River restoration, as well as the improvements to the Struthers Community River launch through the Appalachian Community Grant Program, are just a few examples of her commitment to her community's future. Her proactive work in improving parks, accessible spaces, and city services has had a tangible, positive impact on the city of Struthers. Through her vision and dedication, Mayor Miller continues to be a catalyst for positive change in the region. Let's take a moment to hear about Mayor Miller's accomplishments and contributions to Struthers and the surrounding community.
So when I became mayor in 2020, which was about 5.5 years ago now, I had a lot of priorities that I wanted to get working on right away. One of them was the downtown area. One of them was bringing businesses here, working with different programs and trying to get money into Struthers. Blight was also one of them. We added a code enforcement director, trying to make it so that families wanted to move back into Struthers. We've made a lot of headway on these goals. One of the things we did in 2021 was a housing survey with YNDC and students from YSU, and then we took that and we've been kind of hoarding properties and vacant land with the hopes that we could put houses back on them, and we've been able to do that recently. We do a lot of work, obviously, with Eastgate. We have a company that we're working with, Pantheon Builders, and we just got a grant for $2.75 million through the ODOD to purchase 8 newly built homes. So the river has been a main focus for the city of Struthers. With the dam removal that we had, that was very huge for the city. There were so many people that came together, Eastgate heading the entire mission. With Eastgate's help, we were able to get the Appalachian grant for the kayak launch. So we received a little over $1 million, and that's something that's going to be taking place. Eastgate really has been such a huge piece for us because a lot of these bigger grants and these bigger monies, you have to think regionally about that. I'm really excited to be honored today. One of the things that we prioritized when I came into office was showing up and being at those tables when the discussions are happening. And Eastgate has really been able to help us make that happen, and always including Struthers.
Please join me in congratulating Mayor Catherine Sircone Miller. Mayor Miller, please come forward to accept your award from Eastgate, as well as special recognition from the Ohio House of Representatives, which is signed by Representative Lauren McNally, Tex Fisher, Nick Santucci, Monica Robb Blaisdell, Dave Thomas, and Sarah Fowler Arthur. Mayor. Even though I didn't see the statue and plaque indicating the birthplace of the legend from Struthers, I did wear my Struthers pin in honor of Kat getting the award. Thank you, Mayor Miller, for your outstanding leadership and tireless dedication to improving the city of Struthers. Your work has truly left an enduring mark on this community. And remember, once a Wildcat, always a Wildcat. Congratulations again, Mayor. Next, it is a true privilege to introduce Mr. Pat Kerrigan. Bear with me 1 minute. I had to switch out of order. Pat's the executive director of the Oak Hill Collaborative, and he's being given this prestigious award for his exceptional work in addressing the digital divide in our communities. Through Pat's tireless efforts, he has played a key role in helping to bridge gaps in access to technology, offering computer classes and workshops across Mahoning, Trumbull, and Ashtabula counties. His work has directly impacted hundreds of people, empowering them with the tools and skills necessary to succeed in an increasingly digital world. Pat's ability to engage with local communities, offer practical support, and create lasting solutions is just one example of the type of leadership we strive to recognize. It is a true privilege to celebrate Pat's outstanding contributions to the region. Let's take a moment to watch Pat's video.
When we started, we were intending to be a neighborhood center. There's a few churches, but there really aren't any community leaders here so much. There's no place for people to meet or have meetings or just be able to have a central force in the neighborhood, and that's what we tried to do. We stepped into that role. We've grown to, last year we had 500 classes that we taught. And this neighborhood center approach, which was with the encouragement of Eastgate, and I thank Jim Kinnick in particular for that, because that was his inspiration to kind of push that, get a neighborhood center and teach classes in a variety of places. So we now go to 12 different sites in 3 counties. We're up in Ashtabula, and we're looking to go to Columbiana next. We do Mahoning, Trumbull, and Ashtabula. We calculate the number of hours. We had over 5,000 hours of student participation, So that was an average of 10 students a class. We also distribute free refurbished computers. It is a tremendous honor because, in particular for Eastgate, because I look to them as a real partner for the Oak Hill Collaborative. We are the boots on the ground, and they obviously are infrastructure oriented, and that's what they do, and they do that best. And they have helped us in so many ways. So just to be recognized by them is this is nothing. I mean, the support they've given us and other things has really been valuable and important to our mission.
Pat, would you please join me on stage to accept your award from Eastgate, as well as special recognition from the Ohio House of Representatives. Congratulations, Pat, and thank you for all you've done. It's truly inspiring to see the difference you've made in our community. As we conclude this special segment, I'd like to once again congratulate Pat Kerrigan and Mayor Miller for their incredible work and leadership. Your contribution inspires all of us and are helping to shape a brighter future for our region. Thank you to everyone for being part of this meaningful celebration of leadership and community impact. We are lucky to have such dedicated individuals making a difference in our area. With that, I'll hand it back over to Kathy to continue today's program. Congratulations to the award recipients once again.
Thank you, Pat. And I also would like to extend congratulations to Pat Kerrigan and Mayor Kat, as we affectionately call her. And you know, Mayor Kat is always one to be mentoring the next generation. So I'd like to call attention to a group of students that she's brought with her at Struthers. Could you please wave so we can welcome you as well? Thank you. Thank you. You are our future, and the way we move to improve our communities is because of you. So thank you for attending. Now it is my pleasure to look at our next vision. And we are very fortunate to have a nationally recognized keynote speaker, Mr. Chris Allen. He is the Director of Events and Partnerships at Strong Towns. Strong Towns is a nonprofit, and they take a new approach to community development. Chris has a vast experience in operations, sales, and management. We're looking forward to his presentation, and I would like to say, as we were chatting, Chris is from Arkansas, about 2 hours from Lake of the Ozarks, which is beautiful country. So I hope you're feeling welcome in Youngstown, Ohio, and I'd like to invite you to the stage to make the presentation we've been interested in seeing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Normally, I have to talk about Walmart every time I go anywhere because Walmart is headquartered in Northwest Arkansas where I live. So Lake of the Ozarks as an intro is always great. And I hope that I do well enough I can come back to see the statue unveiled next year for you. That'd be great. So we're going to start off with a little bit about what Strong Towns is for those of you who aren't familiar. So at Strong Towns, we seek to replace America's post-war pattern of development, which we call the suburban experiment, because that's what it is. We've never done things this way before, and we've seen the consequences of that. With a pattern of development that is financially strong and resilient for the road ahead for our communities, we advocate for cities of all sizes to be safe, livable, inviting for all people. We work to elevate local government to be the highest level of collaboration for people working together in a place, not merely the lowest level of a hierarchy of governments. Everyone gathered in this room today is making an acknowledgement that local government matters, local participation matters, and now more than ever. As I'm sure all of you are acutely feeling in the national environment, things that we used to be able to count on, whether that was supported bond programs or finance opportunities from the federal government. The times we live in now are changing, and we think the most responsible way to build resilient cities is to build resilient places is with resilient cities that are led by people that love and care about them. So at Strong Towns, we have 5 core campaigns. We want to end additional highway expansion. We want to increase transparent local accounting. We want to produce incremental housing on infrastructure that already exists. We want to have safe and productive streets. We want to end parking mandates and subsidies. We often get called anti-car at Strong Towns. We are adamantly not anti-car. We are adamantly pro-person. We believe that all humans have the right and ability to access the public space, not just those in cars. And this isn't a touchy-feely emotion. We've got enough data now to prove that those are significantly more financially productive areas of your community. It is not a surprise when we go and look at places and see the tax data and the places that are most financially productive, whether that is from tax resources, from property values, or from tax receipts from sales. Those are places where people can move as freely as cars. So at Strong Towns, how do we do this? Through our articles. We have over 5 million annual visitors per year to our website. Through self-reported data, we're interacting with 1 out of 5 elected municipal leaders and city technical staff across North America. Our podcasts, over 1 million monthly downloads. Speaking events like this here today. And then we do have a local conversation and membership program. We just had our first overseas local conversation started in Uganda this year. And so we have over 2,000 local conversations, which is groups of 2 or more people in a community coming together to say, we want to make our town more financially strong and resilient for generations to come. I'm going to have coaching for cities and technical staff. Now, we got the boring stuff out of the way. We're going to take a little bit of a step back. This is a picture of Main Street in Brainerd, Minnesota. And I know we're all here today to talk about housing, but I promise we'll get there. Give me a few minutes. We'll get you guys out early for lunch with some light Q&A at the end. One point I did miss that was my responsibility, so apologies, Eastgate staff. We're going to do Q&A at the end. So as we are going through, if there are any questions you guys have, we'll bring some mics around when I'm done talking. We'll do a few light minutes of Q&A before we get back to the fun networking and getting out of here for lunch. So we're going to take a step back. We're going to look at Brainerd, Minnesota in 1870. Brainerd, Minnesota was a railroad stop town. Some guys hopped off right when they were building a bridge to cross the river. They cut over some trees, planed the boards from the trees they cut over, and made the main street of Brainerd, Minnesota. This is what most cities looked like when they were first formed. There's no infrastructure. It's all one-story buildings. They're thrown together with some wood they planed on the site. Some of them have real windows. Most of them are just holes in the wall. This is what cities looked like when we started them. This isn't a North American phenomenon. This is what happened. This is how human habitat started to evolve. A few people would come together, they'd throw some buildings up, and they'd take a chance. They'd try and make something from nothing. This is how our cities were formed. So this is Main Street in Brainerd, Minnesota in 1870. This is that same street from that same perspective in 1905. We'll see that after just a few years, we've had some parcels come together. We've had some landowners take small, less dense buildings and densify. They went up and they went out. The materials that the buildings are constructed of has also improved dramatically. No longer do we just see plain wood boards. We see masonry buildings. We see concrete. We see brick. We see formal, real structures. We've got real windows. We've even got a little bit of a curb there, if you'll notice. We've got some infrastructure starting to pop up. This is because the economic productivity of the area, this small bet, this incremental bet paid off. Brainerd grew. Brainerd was thriving. Just a few years later in 1928, we'll see even more growth. These buildings maybe aren't as tall, but they're significantly more important buildings. These are big, strong buildings that can stand, they can change. They can have businesses in the first floor. They can have residences in the top two floors. They can have manufacturing in the entire building. These are big, strong, sturdy buildings, many of which in your community might be still standing today from the same time period. So the feedback we get in these conversations a lot is, what about big cities? Big cities must have been different. So I'm going to show you another city in North America. This is the same street, or this is a street in a new city in 1878. It's a couple years ahead of where Brainerd was. They've already got a couple 2- and 3-story buildings, but there's not a lot going on here. This was a pretty normal street frontage in North America 20 years before the turn of the century. Next, we've got the same street in 1898. I gave this talk at a legal conference in New York about 6 months ago, and someone in the audience gasped and said, "Oh my God, where's their sign ordinance?" Alas, it was not in place yet. I don't know if it ever will be. So this is that same street corner in 1898. You'll notice buildings are bigger. They're taking up almost entire city blocks at this point. Here's the same street in 1911. Some of you will probably start to notice it now. Additional infrastructure, the buildings are taller, they're more important, they're sturdier. Here's that same street corner in 1918. Buildings are sturdier, buildings are bigger, they're made out of more important materials, they're probably gonna last a little bit longer. Here's that same street corner today. This isn't a phenomenon in small towns in America. This is how human habitat was built. This is how our cities were built. This is how the places we were all born and raised were built. Maybe not to this scale, obviously. And as we can see, they still haven't fixed their sign ordinance. So our cities have a natural life cycle, a normal time-tested pattern of growth. We understand organically how our cities are built because that's how they were always built. Our cities are complex adaptive systems, like the rainforest. The buildings we saw in those pictures could have started off as a shoe repair shop. They could have turned into a restaurant with an apartment in the back. Some of the larger buildings as they began to densify could be manufacturing structures. They could be entire apartment complexes. They could be lofts. They could be legal offices. They could be hair salons. These buildings could adapt and change, much like a rainforest where, God forbid, one kind of tree in the forest falls, a new kind of tree will grow to fill in its place. It's a complex adaptive system that can change. Chuck tells a story in his first book about visiting the ruins of Pompeii. And there on the street corner, just outside of downtown Pompeii, was a house that had had the front cut off of it and had a hearth put in the front. And it was he jokingly refers to it as the first fast food joint in Pompeii. But it was the only house in town that had a hearth in the front, and they were baking bread and selling it out of the front of their house. Very clearly, the family had grown. They had some economic opportunity because of traffic in and out of the center of town. They were able to open a restaurant. How many of us could cut the front off of our houses and start a bakery out of them today? Our cities used to always be built this way. They could adapt and change and grow and become something new, what the community needed next. These were complex systems. They were not complicated systems. The rainforest juxtaposed against monoculture crop for, conversation's sake, let's call it Monsanto Dent 2 corn. That's not very resilient. If it's 2 degrees hotter, it'll die. If they overspray, it'll die. If it doesn't rain enough, it'll die. It's not a complex adaptive system. It's incredibly complicated. This isn't to say that the output of this system isn't incredibly high, simply that it lacks resiliency. If there's a shock to the market, if anything changes, if they don't have access to a chemical or the sprayer breaks down, this crop will fail. Unlike our rainforest, the way we used to build our cities. Human habitat used to be complex, and now we've made it complicated. I'm sure all of you can feel this in your communities now. We don't know how to face the shocks. We don't know how to absorb the problems as they come because our spaces can't adapt. Our communities are left with homes that promised a greater future only to have long-term liabilities. As the property values continue to decline and people don't want to live there anymore, services continue to become harder to provide, and as soon as that road and sidewalk has to get resurfaced, where's that money coming from? So now I want to, in the backdrop of that, thinking about how we used to build cities, now we're going to talk about our housing crisis. So we ask anybody, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, no matter what position you have, no matter what your vocation, whether you're a housing rights advocate or a suburban home builder, if we ask if you're in a housing crisis, everyone says yes. The answer to are we in a housing crisis is always universally yes. Then we ask, to solve the housing crisis, what direction do housing prices need to go? 43% of people say that to solve the housing crisis, prices need to go up. This will fix it. 41% of Americans said the housing prices need to go down. As you can see, there's an inherent tension here. Is housing a basic human need and a human right, or is it the largest financial vehicle in our economy? Is it the largest investment that most of us hold, and is it the largest investment that most of our banks and financial institutions hold? What is housing? Does it need to go up, or does it need to go down? We're having 2 completely separate housing conversations, and we're continually surprised that we can't find the right answer. One of these conversations is that housing is a basic human right and should be available to all of us. Then downstream of that are the problems that your cities, communities, and economies have when housing is not widely available and accessible or is unattainable. And I'm not talking about capital A affordable housing with subsidies on top of subsidies, which is necessary in many instances, but we're talking about housing that is affordable. Then on the other side is an entire financial market that is built on the back of housing. We simply can look back just to the 2008 crisis to understand that we've created an incredibly complicated system that is incredibly, incredibly fragile. One group says housing prices must fall. The next group says housing prices cannot be allowed to fall. And at the same time, we have federal policy pushing both of these positions. We have tax dollars and subsidies going for creating affordable housing. At the same time, we have policies for down payment assistance. We have policies for any kind of increment financing you might be able to think of at the federal level. Not to say that any of these policies are bad, simply that we have 2 incongruous positions that we are trying to hold at the same time, that are pulling against each other constantly, and we're getting the results you would expect. Please forgive me, we're going to talk about Great Depression housing prices. I know. Nobody wanted to give up their morning to hear me talk about housing prices in the Federal Reserve in 1930, but here we are. It's too late now. The event sold out, you can't leave. So, in pre-Great Depression era, almost the entirety of the financial market, especially housing, was built on local banks. You had to have a 50% down payment for your home. These were interest-only loans. And there were 5-year terms with a balloon payment. At the end, you would refinance. You'd sit back down, you'd laugh about, the weather and corn prices, and you'd refinance your home. 5 more years, balloon payment at the end. This was normal. This was not obtuse. And at this time, almost every single bank in America was chartered to a city. You sat down with a banker who knew you, who knew your family, who knew what you were doing. Then we have the Great Depression. The Great Depression spikes. We had this incredible downward spiral in everything, not just housing. Prices for everything were plummeting. I'm sure you can see how this might create a problem. So, in the Great Depression, whenever values started to spiral down, they could only loan you half the money you needed. But what if your house went down in value? And so the appraised value of the home went down significantly, but when you went to do your balloon refinancing, the amount was less than you had. The bank could not lend you, by its own laws and federal regulations, the bank could not lend you what you owned the next time around, and you had to, at that day, pay them that much cash, or the property was going to be foreclosed on and repossessed. In the 1930s, over half of American properties went into repossession. 50% of American properties were lost. Not only the generational wealth that transfer would have created, but the people, the hearts of all of our communities had their property taken away from them because of a downward economic spiral that they had no control over, and a banking system that gave them absolutely no other option. So, we have a new deal. The federal government steps in and says, we're going to fix this. We can't let this happen anymore. The government will purchase mortgages in default. We'll refinance over 20 years instead of just 5 years with lower interest rates, and the payments will be principal and interest. Then they'll create a secondary market for those long-term mortgages because as any of you in banking, I'm sure can understand, holding a 30-year note and then having to loan out money on a checking account is a really, really bad economic decision. So the federal government said, hey, we'll buy those loans so you as the bank don't even have to hold that note anymore. You can go back to the free cash flow. Lowered down payments from 50% to 20% and provided private mortgage insurance for anyone who couldn't cover that 20%. This was amazing. This stabilized the economy. It stabilized the housing market. Then we move into World War II. Paul Samuelson was the leading economic advisor at the time. He was director of economics at Harvard. And he said in the, it was 1942, 43, were the war to end suddenly, there would be ushered in the greatest period of unemployment and industrial dislocation which any economy has ever faced. So the powers that be, the leaders of our country said, hey, we are going to mobilize this tool we've built under the New Deal and ensure that the troops come home to a robust, thriving economy. And how are we going to do that? We're going to put this new mortgage instrument we've built in place, and we're going to put it on steroids. We're going to create all of these programs to incentivize banks to loan on new homes. These GIs come home, we're going to, through the GI Bill, finance all of them to be able to buy homes in addition to cars, in addition to going to college. And we're going to do it in the development pattern that we have invented in the 1950s. Before the 1950s, as we talked about earlier, homes were never built this way. This is a suburban experiment that cars induced. At the same time, the Fed was walking around saying what is good for GM is good for America, and what was good for GM was more cars. I know you are all acutely aware of the impact of manufacturing in the region. The difference that has happened here with our development pattern post-World War II in the suburban experiment is, in short, we never built houses this far apart. Never in human history have we ever built houses this far apart. And because of cars and because of big lots and because of this incentive post-World War II to build more houses, it made it really, really simple to build them far apart outside of town for one single use, for one single lifetime, for no possibility of adaptive reuse. At the same time, through this program, we made it easier for more people, our GIs coming home from World War II, to borrow more money to increase the cost of housing and stimulate the economy, to pay more for housing. So we made more people borrow more money to pay more for housing. The reason we have a housing crisis is pretty straightforward. We have subsidized our way into an intractable problem. This was wildly successful. At the end of World War II, as you can see here, GDP skyrocketed. At the same time, public debt from our cities, counties, municipalities, governments, state and federal governments, debt's nearly flatlined because the government didn't have to subsidize any of this, we did. Personal debt to GDP has a directly inverse correlation. We're assuming all this debt. And for many of us in our communities, it doesn't matter. We can pay a little more for housing, we can pay a little more for transportation. But the problems that we're feeling now in our communities is that this is untenable. We've created a situation where the math simply doesn't math. You'll notice here on this chart, over this time, private mortgage debt held by individuals has went up 1,134%. If you'll notice, we also have, this is a Case-Shiller home price index, if you're the kind of person who cares about that. Every single one of these bubbles is one that we felt acutely. And here's our housing recovery today. This is the post-COVID boom dollars. The thing we're all feeling right now is this. The other side of this, very unfortunately, is that these are financial products. These are not shelter built for humans. There's nothing wrong that these are financial products. They perform incredibly well. But single-family homes with a 2-car garage and what is called in the industry a 5/1 are incredibly well known. We can package these up and sell them all day. For major home builders, they just have a line of credit with one of the big 5 banks that tell them how many of these they can do, and they go do them. The bank doesn't hold the note, they bundle it up, and they sell it to the feds or somebody else. Same thing happens with 5/1s. These look nothing like human habitat. These are not how humans live. And even more important, when I come and speak with groups of you, the product on the left can never be anything else ever. That can't become multifamily, that can't become student housing, that can't become a salon. And even more ominous than the inefficiency of it being so, it's illegal to do. If a struggling single mother living on one of those homes on the left wanted to start cutting hair after school to help make ends meet for her kids, the police would show up and shut her down. The product on the right, it's somewhat better, but it's not built for people. It's built as a product for a bank to sell. The mortgage is the product. No longer is housing the product. The mortgage is the product. Because we've made it easier for more people to borrow more money to pay for more housing, and that is not the answer. As we continue to throw subsidies on the problem, which please hear me out. We need to do everything we can. We need to try every tool we have in the arsenal. But if all of the tools we're using simply make housing more expensive overall for everyone, we're not fixing the problem. We're going to show a distribution of investment capital for housing. So over here on the right, we have giant custom homes. These are built with cash. These are not a problem. These are jumbo loans. Bankers can write these all day. The market does not have a need. Up at the top on the right is luxury condos or new 5/1s. These are incredibly productive. Most big banks have pre-filled out pro formas for these. The developer walks in and says, here's my estimated tenant. They're probably going to have an anchor tenant that's going to be like Chipotle or a walk-up McDonald's. It's like, hey, we're already in pre-negotiations with them. It's fine. We've got this many units. Average rent rate for 1, 2s, and 3s is this. Cool, it's done, signed and built. The other is large suburban sprawl tract development. Exact same thing. Pro formas for these are existing. We might change some numbers for labor cost, but a bank can sit down and underwrite these without even needing to look at it. The problem we have is on the left, and I'm sure you guys are acutely feeling this right now. The kind of infill development that is what builds resilient communities does not have existing pro formas. No one is advocating for that grandma to be able to open up her side bedroom as a ADU or to be able to put an ADU in the backyard. We need to do things like allowing accessory apartments. In most places in America, renting out one of your rooms to help make ends meet because you were stuck in a house you can't get out of and you don't want to move out of your neighborhood because you'll never see your grandkids again. It's illegal to rent out one of your bedrooms. Yeah, we have Airbnb, but even that's being regulated out. I'm not advocating for Airbnb, simply encouraging us all to think about how we can make our brittle systems more adaptive. Backyard cottage, not an ADU. Don't call it an ADU. That sounds scary. Call it a backyard cottage. Call it a granny flat. Call it something fun. You need to allow ADUs by right in all places. And the thing that this does, I know this sounds crazy, but what that actually does is it's going to allow your developers to start getting really, really creative. Your small, incremental, and infill developers are the people They're the superheroes who are going to rush to fix this as soon as they can. And if you allow ADUs by right, in my city in Fayetteville, Arkansas, we did one of the first ADU ordinances. And when we went to city council to talk about it, we said, hey, let's try it out. Give us a year. If you don't like it, we'll change it, we promise. After a year, it was wildly successful. They said, why don't we do 2 ADUs by right in everybody's backyards now? Nothing bad happened. No one died. There was not mass parking on every street. Every single boogeyman that everyone was worried about, guess what? It didn't happen. It's almost like it was made up. This is my favorite, starter homes. This is not a tiny home. Also, we just used to call these homes. I don't know if any of you grew up in a home that we would now call a tiny house and make a silly little HGTV commercial out of it. This is just a home. We used to allow people to build small houses on small lots. We made it illegal now. In most of our communities, it's illegal to build a detached single-family home under 1,000 square feet. That's insane. I love you guys. I know we're all trying. We got to fix this. This is one of the first things we have to fix. We wonder why housing costs are prohibitively high. We can't build the housing that we know we need, that we've needed and built for generations. I grew up in a house like this that had been added onto 2, 3, 4, 5 times. You know, the weird bedrooms at the side, hallways where there shouldn't be hallways, you know, patios that became screened in that become the little sister's bedroom. That's how we've built housing, and we've made it illegal now. You can't build these houses anymore. In the downtowns of most of our communities, the biggest, nicest houses in town were the starter homes that got it added onto. We got to allow people to try this. And these are choices we can make. Most of you here are, I'm going to make a pretty safe assumption, involved in municipal government in the region. Minimum lot size is just a decision you get to make. Minimum square footage is a decision you get to make. We could all walk out of here and make a new decision about the housing options that we're creating for our communities. So, this is our list. How to escape the housing trap. Every community is different, but across North America, these are the solutions we found in communities that are able to get it done. Code reform. You've got to allow people to try stuff. You don't know what's going to work because your community is different than every single other community. Get into the code. Sit down with the crew at Eastgate. Find people who are looking to make a difference and who've seen things work here. Sit down and help them. If we have this huge onerous system on the code side, you're only going to get developers who have legal teams and legal departments. And let me tell you what, their incentives are extractive. They're going to come in and build the housing and the light commercial that they know performs for their portfolio. They're going to drop it in, they're going to leave. The people who are committed to making your communities better are the people in this room and the people who are trying to make a difference. Allow those people to not have to jump through 800 levels of hurdles to try and get something done in their communities. Next is building a cohort of incremental developers. You've got to do capacity building here. Incremental developers don't have huge building teams. They don't have giant finance arms. They don't buy up small banks to subsidize their work like the big builders do. So they need help. They need a network. They need good subcontractors. Help build that. And we got to localize finance. We've got to take finance out of the automated spreadsheets from big companies out of town who don't understand your economics and don't care about your people. And we've got to encourage making those decisions locally. To this end, we've built a toolkit, 6 policies every city needs to be housing ready. Part 1 is to allow single-family home conversion to duplex or triplex by right. Just do it. It's not negotiable. Permit backyard cottages in all residential zones. And again, I know that you are all dealing with problems that make things like this seem silly. What this allows to do when you start taking steps like this is it allows builders and developers to get really, really creative. So instead of seeing, you know, the thing everybody's worried about is, oh, we're just gonna have ugly shacks in the back of every yard. That's not actually what happens. What happens is that suburban retrofit starts to come in, and people can start cutting up buildings and using them for new things. Legalize starter homes in all residential zones. Remove lot minimums, remove square foot requirements tomorrow, do it. Eliminate minimum lot size requirements in existing neighborhoods. This is for infill development, the kind that's the best. This is what you need. Repeal parking mandates for housing. Non-negotiable. Do we have a housing crisis or do we have a car parking crisis? Every time I sit through a conversation where people are concerned about homelessness, I ask to see their parking requirements. Yes, it's really annoying to walk 15 feet to be able to get into a restaurant. I promise, I understand. You know what's even worse? Homelessness. We're picking to house cars instead of people whenever we have onerous parking mandates. And also, I will tell you, there's absolutely no data to support that this is economically viable. However your city is funded, you are stealing money from yourself by taking what could be productive land for housing or for businesses and giving it to cars. We have the data, this is not negotiable. Streamline the approval process. It shouldn't take 6 or 8 months for somebody who's trying to get something built to get it built. I understand, this is the one people jump out and wave their arms and stomp out of the room. I get it. I promise planning teams at the city, I promise I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but we can do better. The real problem that this initiates is, again, the same way as financing and code, is it allows teams with big legal departments to get work in your community and nobody else. And we need to allow, whatever your concern is, the answer is making this easier for people in your community who want to try and make the place better. Incremental developers, they need your help. Support them. Who's an incremental developer? All of us can be incremental developers. We've seen it happen in all of our communities. We partner with an organization called the Incremental Development Alliance, which does training for developers and city staff who are looking to figure out how they can do this. Some of the most successful developers in my community are a couple lawyers who just like got mad, and then a guy who used to be an art teacher. And they're doing, in Northwest Arkansas, we have the fastest growing millionaires per capita in North America, and the biggest developer in the region is a former art teacher at the high school. Because we removed code barriers and he got active and he cared, and he wasn't there to gentrify, he was there to support housing for people in our community. And if we want to see housing built for people in our community, we need to let people in our community do it. We need localized finance. This one's hard, I promise, I know. But even if you don't have access to the level of community banking you would like, there are loan officers, there are branch presidents for large banks who are here, who are committed to making a difference. Find those people, build relationships with them. And if you're in the room and you are a finance professional, I would encourage you to take a look at pro formas of infill development. I guarantee you it will outperform the commodity product you're building. Retrofit of existing properties and infill development is the most productive unit type you will have, I promise. And here's where it gets fun. Here's what we've seen cities do. In Oswego, New York, we saw the city provide micro grants. If everybody on the street signed up to do some level of improvement, they didn't even require that the people in the city, that the people getting the grant said what they were going to do with it first. If everyone on the city street said, I'm going to do something, I'm going to paint my shutters, I'm going to put in a row of tulips, the city gave them something like $750 to each homeowner to go and beautify the street. You can guess what happened. Well, after 5 years, property values in every single one of the streets that they've done this on have risen. In Muskegon, Michigan, they did tax increment financing for individual lots for infill development, not for entire districts to spur commercial work, but for individual lots, they did tax increment financing and and then wrote the check, then allowed the incremental developer to be able to use that money to cover the building loan gap. Most banks will only give you a building loan of 80%. And so what this did is effectively overnight, anybody in town could do an infill development on a lot that the city held or that they could get access to from the land bank. In California, you can get on the spot automated approval, just like, buying tickets to a baseball game. California is underwriting cottage financing for ADUs for for approved backyard suppliers. California is underwriting this. In Minnesota, they used special assessments that were deferred to allow people to make property upgrades. So this allowed them to put in, what you see here is a apartment on top of a small business lot, a small business opportunity there on their back outlot. And the state has allowed municipalities to do this by right. In Florida, several cities are just co-signing loans. They're co-signing loans for renters and they're co-signing loans for construction of infill development. Local governments and philanthropy can help finance low-cost, high-quality housing. For most of these products, if you actually sit down and talk with infill developers, banks are willing to finance a large portion of construction or renovation. There's a gap in the financing. We can take the money that we're spending on any of these other programs in our cities or that philanthropy is supporting and directly deploy that capital. And I know that sounds scary. I don't want to cut anyone's programs. But the really interesting thing we've seen with municipalities and philanthropy covering building cost expenses is that capital is recouped in 6 to 18 months. And so it's able to be redeployed immediately. It's an incredibly interesting opportunity. We're seeing a lot of gap building financing, almost in like a REIT package, spring up in places where the underwriter is a municipality. So we just wrote a book on this. It's called Escaping the Housing Trap. Go check it out. We've also got our book, Strong Towns 101, Confessions of a Recovering Engineer, and Escaping the Housing Trap. One last thing I want to say. We are all experiencing a new reality in the world right now. We don't know if we're gonna get the money we were getting before anymore. And I talk to cities all over the country all the time. We work with thousands of cities across North America, and everyone is feeling the same pain. I have two things to say before we close, and we can move to question and answer. The first is that no one is coming to save you. The second is no one is coming to save you. What that means is you can't count on the things we used to count on. We all understand that. But what that means is that you, the people in the room, can come together and figure it out for yourselves. Because nobody knows more than you, nobody has any more power than you, no one has the right answers except you all. And I'm confident that all of you can come together and work together and make the region the place you want it to be. Thank you so much. So now I think we're going to move to Q&A. So if you want to go and grab those mics, everybody, we'll give everybody a second to shuffle around. I feel like a robust, punitive Q&A is my reward for making you all sit through a Depression-era housing conversation. So if anybody has any questions, please stand up or raise your hand, and they'll bring the mics around. We got one over here. I don't know when they're going to get to you, brother. I'll repeat the question.
My question is, well, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm the program director for Youngstown Cityscape. We do community development work downtown, and we've recently had a lot of reconstruction and increasing pedestrian. All right, I was elaborating to our guests. We had a lot of rebuilding downtown, increasing pedestrian, cycling infrastructure, and what have you. And I thank you for bringing up the point about tax receipts and what have you. I think it's an important conversation, and I was wondering what your strategies and for communicating, besides great presentations, with businesses, municipalities, neighborhoods, as to the importance of that, because a lot of it's very intangible and direct, hard to see sometimes. And I think that's sort of a challenge, especially in legacy cities that are restructuring.
For sure. So great question. I think everybody's hopefully able to hear the end. I would encourage you to go check out our partner organization, which does our data science for us. It's called Urban 3. Just Google Urban 3, and they actually are doing the parcel level data set analysis to give you the information. Now, what you get from Urban 3 is like a bunch of graphs where it's like, hey, downtown's really productive. Hey, the suburbs are actually subsidized. Now, to your question of like, how do we make that compelling? I think the right way to frame this, the way we've seen this conversation work is that you need to have housing choice and you need to have business choice. And so the way we've, you guys are doing really cool stuff here, but we have still preferenced a specific kind of housing and a specific kind of development over other kinds. And so if you're looking at downtown economic or community revitalization, one direction is the math is better, right? Like just these stores make more money, these apartments make more money, and they cost a fraction of what it costs to provide services to the outskirts of town. So we've got really good data on the cost of pipe per person, cost of foot of pipe per person, and the cost of cement or asphalt per person. And when you make everyone farther apart, it costs more for the city to provide them basic services. And so when you're looking at like, where do we spend a dollar to get the most back? Places where the infrastructure is really tight and the things that are happening are really close together, the city just gets more money back for it. And so one is, do they just want to talk about the math? Check out Urban 3. If not, if they want to talk about, another direction we've seen work a lot in those conversations is people who don't want to talk about math, talk about housing choice, talk about choices for businesses, say it's fine that you want to live this way, but what if somebody else wanted to live a different way? Shouldn't they have that right? You want to run your business over here this way, somebody might want to have their business downtown in a beautiful building that is in need of repair anyway. So hopefully that was helpful. Follow up with me afterwards. I'll give you my card. We got a bunch of resources I'd be happy to share. Anybody else? You guys already know everything. You didn't even need me to come. Yes, ma'am.
And I got a big mouth, so I don't need a mic.
I'll just repeat it.
Do you have example cities where they have been proactive about independent house flippers and, say, a certification program or other incentives to help people scale up simple flipping?
So the question was, do we have an example of a city that has taken kind of small startup flippers and helped them support them more? South Bend, Indiana is the answer. And we do have a bunch of information about that. Come see me, I'll give you my card, I'll get you connected with people there. But what happens in these communities is that, like, the pushback we get on our conversation about incremental and infill development is like, it's not at scale, like it doesn't work, we need more than that. You might right now, but 5 years from now you won't. And what happened in South Bend is, like, by accident, what happened is there were a couple people there who, like, thought it was cool, and so they made it cool. And then there was enough work because there was enough small infill developers that custom carpenters could work with them instead of the big tract home builders. And plumbing crews could work with just the infill developers instead of having to do, toilet calls at 2 a.m., right? Like, there was enough work because they had built the ecosystem. And then what we've seen subsequently with our partners at the Incremental Development Alliance and the work we've done is you can manufacture that first layer. You can just have events. You can host trainings. And what you'll see is there's enough things happening. And I'm sure you guys have, felt this acutely too. I think it was something like 3 to 6 months ago, tiny homes were on the cover of the Sunday New York Times. The country's starting to feel differently about housing in the built environment than it used to. And so, like, there's an opening here where we can step in and say, there's a different way to do this. And so we've seen some places like South Bend that did it organically, and then we've seen other places where I live in Fayetteville, Arkansas, was more manufactured, where, like, there was 2 people in town and they're like, we're gonna have meetups, we're gonna have events, we're gonna train developers, and we're gonna train subcontractors. And that was the big unlock, was even if the developer wants to do the project and get it financed, if you can't get a carpenter who understands what needs to be done, you can't get it built. If you can't get a plumber, you can't get it built. And so building the ecosystem around those people is what we've seen work. Great question, thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
While this is a housing presentation, I guess, is there a parallel to commercial development and shopping centers and malls?
Yeah, the question was, we talked a lot about housing today. Have we seen anything similar on the commercial side? And the answer is yes. Muskegon, which I'm sure some of you are familiar with, is our favorite example there. They had a huge downtown storefront vacancy problem and then a lot of parking lots. And so what we did with Muskegon is we said, okay, let's buy a bunch of those $3,000 sheds from Home Depot, and let's illegally run extension cords out of the back of them to the closest restaurant, shop, bar thing that's open. And let's just create a registration system and create a lottery and give them away. If you want to start a business in Muskegon, you can just go to the city's website and sign up to get one of their free chalets. It costs them like $50,000 to get set up, which isn't nothing, but it's a lot less than a building falling over and having to deal with it. And now, unsurprisingly, there are no open storefronts in Muskegon. Absolutely none. They took empty downtown parking lots and they put Home Depot sheds on them, and they let anybody in town who wanted to open a business in them. Just try something out. And now they've taken this, what was an empty part of town, filled it with businesses, which PS they're getting tax receipts from. And then the businesses that have been successful in those, they call them chalets, have now grown into the vacant storefronts downtown. And they've got this pipeline, this economic development pipeline and the small business pipeline for less than what it would have cost to restripe half a block. And so that's the one we've seen that's been most interesting to us. We have in some places that have the right building stock, allowing upzoning or downzoning or lateral zoning from residential to commercial by right is an interesting way we've seen that work, but you've got to have the existing stock to make that one work. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Oh, you tell me.
Mine will only take a minute. So I love the idea. The vision is great. It brings us to another era. But we also need to remember we need to work with our municipalities that on zoning ordinances, building permits, and things that are legal to the system that need to be changed. And of course, that's not an overnight fix. So you have different, like Youngstown, you have Camel, you have Struthers, but the zoning issues have to change, especially when you want to put a small house on a small lot
Absolutely.
in a city where you're going to abut the next house.
Yep.
You have to change property lines, variances, and so forth. So do you have something where you train cities that would want to make some changes and how that would happen? Because that
Absolutely.
would be in commercial properties as well.
Yep.
Industrial, commercial.
Absolutely. Great question. Thank you so much. Yes, we have seen it. And that's one of the first things you have to do. And I think we see expressed here through Eastgate and through the participation of the municipalities here that there are people who are at the table ready to have a conversation, and they might need help or support or cover, that these are things that are positive. But on that side, I almost think that is an asset for communities as soon as they have that realization, because most of this can be changed at a city council meeting or a board meeting or a committee meeting. Most of this we can just sit down and change. And so will that happen tomorrow? Probably not. Could it? Yes. And so it's more about being willing to have those conversations and then having regional groups, because you're right, having multiple cities that contractors or developers would need to work in does create some problems, but that's why organizations like Eastgate almost, kind of being that umbrella partner to help people navigate that can be so useful. And we've seen that be an unlock in a lot of communities that we've done work in. So thank you.
As a retired builder and developer, why do we continue to look at housing as an investment and not a place to raise a family and to look at as what it is, housing? And in turn, looking at it as an investment, it continues to raise the cost, which makes it more unaffordable.
Correct. Bingo. That's the thing, right? And that is thank you for your words, sir. That is the tension we have whenever anybody starts talking about subsidy programs, is that if the subsidy is on the front end, it drives up the cost overall, and we do not have actually housing affordability. We've created affordable housing. And we are in a crisis. We need to try everything we can. But if our goal is to make housing more accessible for the people who need it the most, then we need to make housing cost less in general. Anybody else?
Come over here so I can be in
Yes, sir.
line of sight. JP Ducro, Asheville County Commissioner. Is there any data that you have on what's more effective or successful for housing? For example, our land bank's been incredibly successful in Asheville County. We've taken down a lot of houses that are probably unbuildable lots. Loved your points that were shown in your presentation. Is it more successful for a community to fill in those lots, change them, put small houses on those properties, versus taking maybe a 4 or 5 acre block in a city and putting up a dozen or however many could fit on that lot? Is that density problematic in any reason? Does it create issues that may be common with other high density housing, subsidized housing project areas? Or is it because of the type of housing that it is, it's just as beneficial as the other?
That's a great question. Thank you. So the first thing I would say is building where there's already infrastructure is the most financially responsible decision. If the infrastructure already exists, the cost to the city is the lowest to provide services. So you have the highest amount of upside, and you most cheaply solve the problem of getting more units deployed. Now, your other question of should we pick this one or this one? Ideally, we would pick both. The question then is on those larger parcels, are you doing the kind of infill development that's financially responsible or not, right? Like, are we doing big houses on big lots, or are we doing smaller infill development, smaller lot sizes? And some of those parcels too that might be a little bit bigger are places where the city can get creative and try out stuff sometimes. And so those can be interesting opportunities as well. So ideally, we would do both and, but if we have to pick, existing infrastructure is always the most financially responsible for your communities. Unless a private developer wants to build the road, curb, gutter, and sewer, let them. Sir.
Ben Kyle, Mayor of the City of Hubbard. One of the most interesting points that I felt that you had was about parking. And it's something that we deal with on a daily basis. And is there some form of advice that you could give to municipalities and local leaders on trying to help the residents become more mobile without a vehicle? And I know that Eastgate and a lot of other communities here have really tried to make a push forward to get people more active and make those bike trails and make everything so that quality of life is there. But I'm a prime example of small town America where we have a downtown area and people refuse to walk it.
For sure.
Why isn't there more parking? If I get one call a week, I get 50. And we already have a city parking lot next to our park that is fully accessible, and people just refuse to do it. I just think that that's a very unique thing for us, because if it is available, could that housing erupt in more of a downtown setting? But people just refuse to do it.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. And thank you for the question. My heart goes out to you and any other elected officials who are dealing with people complaining about parking. I promise. We did recently with a partner, we did a study in Atlanta, and we just did, like similar property values. And so we took all of these surface lots that the city of Atlanta owned in their district that they had taxable rights over. So basically everything in city limits that they had taxable rights over that was surface lot, whether it was used for parking or storage for, sand or trucks or whatever they needed it for. And we took like similar tax revenues, and the city of Atlanta is losing $55 billion a year in tax revenue from undeveloped property, which they could just pay to truck in and out on the back of semis, everything they needed every day for 100 years for what they would get in 1 year of tax receipts for that. And so the first I would say is, on one side, the math is just really off with undeveloped downtown land. Like and that's not a feelings conversation. But that doesn't matter for some people, right? Like the math is just really, really off. The other one is sometimes we just are going to have to do stuff that not everybody likes, and parking and walking in downtowns is one of them. And the drum we beat continually is we do not have a parking crisis, we have a housing crisis. And I think in a lot of those instances, the economic opportunity of what redevelopment on those spots could do, even if you just activated them with music festivals or, a fun area for the kids, something to get people thinking about what this space could be alternatively, can help you change those conversations. But I do think elected officials and people complaining about parking is one of the hardest. It's one of the most intractable problems that we deal with. A lot of other situations we can just show up with some math and have a different conversation, but parking's tough. Anybody else? In the back.
Hello. Hi. Thank you. I'm just curious, have you seen any communities do anything? And there are some people who like this, but for starter homes specifically, you see a lot of people, and it's because, as you mentioned, they view housing as investments and not homes. But they'll quickly buy up smaller houses, and they will do the cheapest flip. They'll put a coat of paint on, tear out carpet, and get the cheapest flooring you can, and then turn it around and charge $100,000 more on the home later. Is there anything that you've seen communities do to combat that? Because it does force out younger people looking to buy homes, and just curious if there's anything that you have seen.
That's a great question. Thank you. That happens a lot. There's a lot of places where that happens, and it's happening. There's two ways you can go about it. One is acknowledging the reason that can happen is because we don't have enough housing units. If we had enough housing units, that wouldn't even be a financially viable business model. And so the first is we have to look at it in the face and say this is a symptom of a problem we have created. If we want a different outcome than this, we've got to get more units deployed. The other one would be some kind of, depending on how home rules work in your state, some level of deed restriction on the sale or transmission of those properties for an amount of time. Because if you can get them stabilized in the market through a transaction or two, they're probably going to be okay. They're not going to be invincible against that conundrum, but like they'll probably be insulated from that. That mic does not like you, brother.
Quick follow-up. Do you think there's ways to incentivize them to, if they have the capital to continue to buy up these housing, to perhaps get into building new houses? Because then it could help.
That's the actual answer, right? Is if you've made infill development possible and just decrease the barriers so far, and you've got financing figured out in your community, anybody trying to do that, just increase the level of friction on doing the crappy thing you don't want done and make it easier to do the right thing. And usually the market takes care of that. Usually, not always. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask about, let's see.
I'm surprised nobody's asked the question about workforce, like housing is a workforce issue.
Correct.
I've worked with folks across the country. Bunch of money just came running down for workforce. And we still can't get a lot of these people in jobs because they don't have a safe, stable place to work. So, to sleep. So wanting to know, I've worked on a project like this in Indiana, but wanting to know if there's other examples where employers are getting in on the capital stack along with philanthropy and government. That's my one question. I said in grad school I'd never be a two-part question lady, but here I am.
Here we are.
Second, any examples of cities or regions that are intentionally working on that access to capital piece so that the developer, incremental developer training doesn't look like it did in that picture where it's all white, mostly white men. So like we have an initiative in Cleveland where we're trying to build wealth and access to capital for Black developers. So where can we diversify or assist with getting capital in the right hands so it doesn't look like a lot of the rooms in town? And who is getting employers engaged in the capital stack of building housing? I also am afraid that like Amazon's going to build bunk beds for high and have everybody work in a distribution center. So where's it working where it's not hurting workers?
We've seen, that's a great question. So we've seen a few different ways that can go. The Incremental Development Alliance, who we work with a lot, over half of their cohorts are women and people of color. And it's because they're working in mostly formerly redlined neighborhoods. If you don't know what a formerly redlined neighborhood is, I would encourage you to go figure it out. It'll make a lot more sense after that. But that is also the answer to how do we stop gentrification and how do we stop those kinds of problems, is if you are empowering local people to make local decisions with local capital, you're going to get the kinds of projects you want organically, just like you're going to get the kinds of stuff you want every other way when you empower people in the community to take action and do the things they need to do. And so you're going to have to build coalitions to see that be successful. And I would say that organizations like Eastgate are a great tip of the spear to do that. You need to find capital partners locally that want to finance this. And then you've got to be able to, you have to acknowledge that a bank is a bank and it's going to work like a bank. You cannot ask a bank to not be a bank, right? And so you've got to show up to a bank conversation with bank math. And you can do that on really good incremental infill development. It's better than regular development. They just haven't seen those pro formas in a lot of projects. And so you might have to get really creative with the friends and family work on some of this early stuff to then be able to go in, and then those projects are financeable after that. The next one is we have seen in the Mid-South, so we'll say Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, we've seen some regional employers start flipping dilapidated hotels into single-room occupancies. And the cost there is really, really low because most of them for insurance have to be rated appropriately. So like most like Motel 6s aren't about to fall over. And so if you can go in and do some adaptive reuse on those buildings, you can take the philanthropy dollars that they might have spent on the T-ball league. And the pitch when we have conversations with philanthropic organizations there is that building loans are actually like the easiest way to get your money back because the construction is going to be done in usually at most 18 to 24 months. And then you can stay in if you want to as a partner, take the write-off, mark it down, or you can get the capital back and go do another project. So it's really, really interesting. Guys, do you want me to keep going or do we want to wrap up? One more question? All right, this is the big one. Who gets it? Okay. let's call it there then. Thank you all so much for your time and attention. Anybody who can sit through that deserves a round of applause. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Chris. Outstanding PowerPoint presentation, and really like the engagement we had with the crowd asking questions. I will tell you, I didn't see the PowerPoint in his whole presentation until this morning, but it does make me feel like we are on the right path here. So he did challenge us also to make it happen. So that's exciting. Glad to see where we're at. One thing, and I'm going to wrap it up here. I do want to recognize Joanne Stock. She brought the Leadership Academy class of 2025 here as part of their program that started in the fall and finishes up this month. If we could have our future leaders stand and recognize them, it's important they get involved in our community, and we're appreciative of them being here. Thanks, Joanne, for coordinating that. Thank you. We have another round of applause we have to give to Kathy. Outstanding job. I don't know if Justin gets his job back. I do want to also continue to congratulate Pat and Mayor Miller for leading by example. You set the bar high. Hopefully everybody here accepts the challenge. We move into next year, and we'll have recognized 2 other individuals or communities. I want to thank the Eastgate staff. We were teasing this week. We feel this month, the last 2 months, we feel like we're wedding planners. But to pull this off and keep the ship sailing in the right direction when it comes to all the programs and all the other things we're doing, thank you to the entire staff. Great effort. Lastly, we can't do this again. We mentioned it a couple times. Can't do it without our sponsors. I'm going to call them out. Our platinum sponsors: MS Consultants, GPD Group, Stambaugh Auditorium, and Western Reserve Port Authority. We have our gold sponsors: Spectrum, KO Consulting, First National Bank, Lake to River, YBI, AIM Transportation Solutions, Mercy Health, WRTA, Community Foundation, Mahoning County Engineer, Turnpike, and the Mahoning County Board of Commissioners. So thank you all for your support. We need it. Lastly, just a thank you to everybody that participated. Everybody came out today. It's important what we're doing. We got good work. And please take a look and see if you can be more involved with what we're trying to do. We need expertise. We need more people to get it where we need to be. And I look forward to next year coming here to talk about some shovels in the ground and ribbon cuttings. Thank you.